everyone. Welcome to another episode of our webinar. We do this bi-weekly, and I'm Dr. BDZ Capital, and my partner, Dr. Ozoude from Time Health Capital, is going to be our co-host. And we have a special guest today. Josh is our acquisition manager and also is a broker. And he's a friend, and I've known him for a while. The cool thing about it is it took me, almost a year to finally get Josh to come on board, because I bought some properties, he know about me in the market for a while, but only when I finally got to buy like bigger properties, then I got on his radar. So I'm going to introduce him. He originally was a basketball player in college. So after a 4-year college basketball career and graduating from University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, interest in real estate was an all-time high. And at that time, he obtained his real estate license with the goal of earning enough capital to invest in income-producing multifamily properties. After 2 years of being the top sales producer in the Western Kansas of realtors, and doubling his sales in 2017 to 2019, he founded his own company, Harmon Real Estate Company. Josh has sold over 1,500 units and 40 million in sales volume, consisting of multifamily, self-storages, and single-family assets. Joshua is known for his ability to find off-market opportunities and creating business plans that ensure the assets and its investors are profitable. In 2020, Josh was named the #1 individual realtor in the Western Arkansas Board of Realtors with over 20 million in sales volumes, while also earning double diamond honors. He was also featured on an article in August 2020 edition of Due South magazine titled Home Court Advantage. So today he's shifting some of his focus to help passive investors and his family create generational wealth through cash flowing assets in the South and the Southeast. So I'm sure your acquisition and your sales is far more than what I just mentioned. That was
those are old, but it's all good, brother.
Okay, so I'm going to just pass it on to you, and you can just tell us what you're doing today. And,
sure. Thank you, first and foremost. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. First and foremost, thank you, George. Thank you, Bio. I don't talk to Bio about this very much, but 2022, 2021 were very weird times for me. Turning 28, 29 years old, I knew I can be a broker. I knew I can do sales, but really wanted to get into the investing space. I made a lot of people millionaires. Basically what Bio said in that whole bio is I made a lot of other people money, and at the end of the day, I got a check. So I did a lot of those transactional deals and realized that, hey, look, if I stop selling, if I stop cold calling, there is no business at all. And that's what I'm experiencing. I had experienced that in 2023. Thank God I had the hindsight to do some of these deals like we're talking about today, and really stick my neck out there and be confident and take a couple of deals down myself. I joined Dr. Breathe Easy Capital in, I would say, December of last year, because Southbrook was our first deal. We joined up at that time. George had already had a relationship with Bio. Richard, our other partner, already had a relationship with Bio. And I came into the mix with deals. Before these guys, I was just doing 12 units here, 28 units here, 24 units here. And those deals are hard to operate efficiently. Hence why I ended up selling this deal and focusing more on our larger assets like Southbrook and maybe some of the other assets that we'll buy in the future. Right now, sales they're here, they're come and go, because right now financing is difficult to obtain. It's not that the assets are not operating well. A lot of the things that you hear on podcasts are the sky is falling. But what they're really talking about is those big boys, right? Those guys who bought 3, 4, 5,000 doors, all on either bridge financing or didn't buy rate caps, those type of assets. Your mom and pop operators who have their 12 units here, 100 units there, they're not really in trouble. They have long-term financing unless they can't operate. But what we wanted to talk about today, George I think it was George's idea about sales in a turbulent market. Look, how can guys exit? How can investors exit today? And you have to get creative. We, in the end, ended up auctioning this deal. When I bought this property, March of 2022, did I think that we were going to auction this property away? Absolutely not. That was not what I thought. I thought we'd be refinancing right now, refinance equity out, but that option wasn't available, right? So it leaves us with two options. Do we want to hang on and just cash flow? On a 12-unit building, cash flow is okay. You're much more powerful having 200 grand of equity today than having, $3,500 of passive income. Would you guys agree on that? Belle, what do you think?
I think so, because
Yeah.
you can put it into a larger deal, which is going to run more efficiently. Like you said, I contemplate this myself many of my smaller deals to cash out the equity and put into a bigger deal. And so then you also consolidate your assets.
Correct. So I agree with that, right? I had two options: either list this for sale. I'm the biggest broker around. I know the buyers. I can call them all direct. Do I do that, or do I auction it and have guys like Belle call you and say, hey, what the heck are you doing? Are you okay? Why are you auctioning this property? And the fact that you called me let me know that I was in the right place, because that shows there's demand for the asset. It's a nice asset. It should be cash flowing. What are you doing? So I stuck my neck out there. I didn't list this deal. Belle said I sell 20 million. I actually sell about 40 to 50 million a year now in our market. And I didn't list this deal. People were very confused. So what I want to do is I want to give you guys a before video of the asset, what it looked like when we got it, to give you some hindsight or give you some insight. These were 12 doors we acquired March of 2022. We bought it for $384,000. 2 of the units were occupied, actually 3. There were 2 units paying and 1 unit with a goat, okay? They had a pet goat. So if you guys see that top level, kind of that open area towards the top left, there was an actual goat, 3 children and 2 adults living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And they were paying about $500 a goat. I kid you not. So we had a lot of heavy lifting to do. It's a lot of heavy lifting. The property is located right behind Northside High School. There's only 2 high schools in the second largest city in Arkansas, which is Fort Smith. And we were right behind one of those high schools. Students would go behind this high school and actually just skip school. We bought this property with the idea that, hey, look, if we get this, we have to be all in and really put an imprint on the community, make sure kids are safe, make sure there aren't goats walking around the property, things like that. I'll stop talking. I'll play this video for you guys. 5 North 22nd Street in Fort Smith. We're going to name this the Lincoln Apartments. You see just a normal garden style apartment complex, but the location is really what gets us excited. I've done a project just within walking distance on North B Street years ago in 2017. So I've got a lot of knowledge about this little sub-market in Fort Smith, and this block is located directly behind the North Side Gym. So we're really excited to add value to our community. We've already got tarps on the roof. We're preparing for a very successful closing and getting ready to start renovations very soon. 12 units, and we're going to renovate every single unit, putting about, I want to say $14,000 per unit into the building. Top-notch construction is going to be doing the renovations for us. We're going to do new siding, new gutters, new roof. We're going to completely remodel the whole building. So just walk around and kind of show you what we got. Obviously, new doors, new door jambs. We're going to replace all these AC units, fill in these gaps so it doesn't look as tacky. New windows. Then we're going to be adding some amenities to the property as well. And so this is the laundry area. We're going to have to renovate this laundry area. So we're going to have to put some money into that. But really excited about the project. This will be first of many value-add projects for us. So very excited about it and continue to follow us on our journey. Thank you. All right. So what do you guys, in the chat box, you guys let me know what you think about that property. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you grade the quality of this asset when we bought it? You didn't even see the inside. It was even worse on the inside. Got a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10.
Deep value add.
Deep value add. It doesn't get. We bought Southbrook, and we're going through the renovations there. You're talking about $8,000 a door. This was $14,000 a door. Like when we were buying properties at $32,000 a door, it was possible for us to buy something that deep value add $12,000 to $14,000 per door and really get through the renovation. So that's what we did. So I'm gonna go over and kind of show you the pictures of the after of how that came about and what we did with the asset.
And Josh, while you pull that up, could you remind us what year is the property built?
It was built in 1984. The vintage was pretty good.
Right.
The location was pretty good. The reason it really stuck out to me was the property was actually built, like I said, right behind Northside High School, but they just built like a $15 million gym. They built a $15 million gym, or it was a ridiculous amount of money into this gymnasium for the high school. So we just piggybacked off of that, and we just provided a nice asset. 1 second, we're gonna pull up these pictures. So this was before, pretty tacky, pretty rusty. You see some appliances outside. You see a vehicle with the back shot out, the window shot out. That's always my cue right there of a property that's gonna take a lot of work.
There you go.
All right, cool.
Much better.
Much better, yeah. Vinyl plank flooring. We went with the all white paint, right? Nickel fixtures. We pull out the tubs, right? We put in the new tubs around. You don't want to, you can always epoxy things, right? Do epoxy, sand it down, repaint it. If you wanted to look modern, right? You yank it out, it's gonna cost you extra $2,200 per door, but it's gonna give you that appeal, right? That modern feel. So we really took our time with this and we were rewarded for it, right? That's what it looks like. This is the outside. Got new doors on there. We went in with window units, right? We didn't go with anything central heat and air or the hotel units, just a window unit, right? But the residents understand that, hey, look, as long as it's new, it's putting in new fixtures. We're not going in with the old and just refurbishing things. So as long as you show effort, residents are usually willing to pay for that. And I'll actually go back. You see the electrical panels back there. We didn't yank out the electrical panels. We went back with baseboard heat, right? Now I'll go over to the presentation, show you the numbers, what it looked like. How do we come out on this deal? What did we invest into it? And how do we come out on that deal?
Anytime there's an auction, there's anything off the market, we get it most of the time at first. So when, even before it even was posted for auction, I saw it. And I was like, this is Josh property. So yeah. What is he trying to do?
Yeah.
I called you immediately. I said, you need money? You need some dollars?
Hey, listen, so we look at demand, right? I'm a broker at heart. I'm a sales guy. I started my sales career out of college. I had my daughter, my senior year of college, and I had no clue what the heck I was going to do. But I knew sales, something I can probably do, right? So my thing is, hey, how do you catch eyeballs? All the time. That's it. So we went with the auction. We thought that was the way to go. And we were proven right on that. So sale in the turbulent market, how do you accomplish that? It's hard because you want to make sure you're capitalizing on your equity. But this is the executive summary about this deal. It's formerly known as Stadium Heights. And to give you guys some context, I was a history minor in college, right? History, I love history. I always want to know about specifically Black history, right? Because I am a Black man from America, from Richmond, Virginia, deep in history. And Lincoln High School was actually the only high school that African-American children can go to before Northside, right? So Northside High School came about in 1965, maybe. And before then, there was only one school for Black boys and girls to go to, right? So people from Fayetteville, Charleston, within about a 60-mile radius, had to come to Lincoln High School in Fort Smith. And a lot of people do not know that. They only know about Northside. They think history just started at Northside High School. So we actually branded this as Lincoln Apartments. And the people in our community who know about Lincoln High School, they come up to me and ask me, hey, did you know about Lincoln High School? And I'm like, yeah, I did. That's why we named it. So gave it historical context. And I think we were rewarded for that as well. But despite kind of the uncertainty of where rent growth would go in our community, in 2021, we bought this property with average rents at $448. And to give you some context, when we exited this deal, our 1 bedrooms rented for $600 and our 2 bedrooms rented for $800 when we exited, right? So we had, in some cases, a $400 rent bump at this property. Now, you usually only see that in DFW or Phoenix, but we were able to do that in Fort Smith, by what Bio said, finding those undervalued assets and adding value to them. So this was my T12. So a lot of guys want to say, hey, look, where are the numbers? Show me how you made this work. And this is how 12 months of operations look for me. It was up and down, right? You'll see in June, I had a $3,600 a month, and in July, I had a $6,200 a month. It's up and down. But at the end of the day, we had to stabilize this asset. As soon as we bought it, we did all the renovations. We did 14 grand per door into the property, vinyl plank, new appliances, all the stuff that you guys saw. And we immediately started to lease. So that's the most important thing. You can do all the renovations you want, but the market has to now rent these units, lease these units. You have to put together an operation statement so you can present it to guys like Bio, who are going to get every single listing, right? They're going to see every single listing, and regardless of how it looks, those numbers have to make sense, right? So that's what we went through over the next 12 months, stabilizing this asset, showing them our financials and showing that this property could operate. And if any of you guys wanted to see these financials later on to see how we did this, I'd be happy to share this with you. So we purchased this property for $384,000. We put about $227,000 into it and $8,000 to closing costs. Now, how does this work, right? The beauty about real estate is your leverage, right? No, I didn't put in $227,000 of renovations. I only put down 20% of the total cost, which came out to about $97,000 after closing costs. And when we exited this deal, because all I'm looking at, I didn't even look at the cash flow. I'm just looking at, hey, look, how much did I buy it for? How much money did I put in? How much money when I get out when I sold it? And that went into the decision of me selling it, right? I didn't have any closing costs with this auction. I didn't have to pay any commissions. In actuality, what happened at the end of it, the broker actually ended up giving me his commission. He only walked away with about $1,500 or something like that, because he didn't do what he told me he would do. Although I sold it for $715,000, I walked away with almost $192,000. So we more than doubled our money on this deal within 13, 14 months, and we cash flow well along the way, right? Now, the reason I ended up selling this property, you say, hey, if you're cash flowing, you had equity, why'd you sell? I have a pretty good portfolio of different 12 and 24 and 28 unit properties. And I just use that capital and the cash flow to support the others. So the actual equity to get out was more important to me than the 3,400 or $4,000 I could have made per month. So that's the long and the short on this deal. And I want to show you guys, I want to open it up for questions, see if you guys had any questions about how we put this deal together in this market today, because ultimately that's what matters, right? Like we're talking about the market right now, because in hindsight, we probably won't see another market like this for a while, right? We're going to go through this experience right now. We're going to come back. We probably won't see something like this for another 10 years or so. We'll let guys like Bio and George project that. But this is education of how you can execute deals right now today. You can still buy deals undervalued. You can still send out letters to investors, mob and pop operators who are local, right? Buy their assets, add value to the asset through forced appreciation, go in, do renovations, clean up the books, show a clean T12 like what I showed, and then find out the best way to exit, whether that's auction, whether that's listing, whether that's you for sale by owner. You just finding guys, you find investors yourself that are players in the market and doing direct to seller to buyer deals, right? You have to figure out what the best thing to do at that time as the general partner, right? Luckily, as you do bigger deals like what we do at Dr. Breathe Easy Capital, you don't have to make all these decisions, right? This deal took me 12 months. It would likely take most of you guys 24 to 36 to execute what I did in 12, because I do this full time. I don't do anything else. I'm a broker. I do property management and I manage my own assets. At 30 years old, I'm able to do that, right? A lot of you folks don't have that time. Some don't have the expertise, which you're trying to learn today. But at Dr. Breathe Easy Capital, we're able to bring these opportunities to you, similar to this deal, right? Value add. We didn't even talk about cost segregation, right? I did a cost segregation study on this. I was able to write off about 40 grand, right? So this is an amazing deal for me. I did extremely well, and I want to be able to bring these assets to the Dr. Breathe Easy community so you guys can participate as well. So I just want to open up for questions and go from there. What do you think, Bayo?
Yeah, strong work. But I still feel like we don't know why you still chose auction. So maybe you can try to explain how you decide how to exit.
Absolutely.
Normally, what determines, like, how do you decide which way to exit?
Time is of the essence right now. You do not want a stale listing. The last thing any investor wants to do right now is list their asset on the market and then not sell. That's the worst thing that can happen, right? Because it shows one or two things. You can play it up all you want, but guys like Bayo, guys like George, guys like myself, we're in the market consistently. So I dive deep into markets like Fort Smith, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. If there's an asset that comes up and that's an actual deal, it's probably going to come across my desk somehow, right? And I may pass on it, but it's going to come across my desk. If it comes across my desk and it's not a good deal, I'm going to remember that. Right? And so I wanted to be very careful about how I presented this deal. I didn't want to send this around and people say, hey, look, it's only worth 600 grand. I didn't want to list it and to send on the market for 60, 90, 120 days. And the highest offer I had gotten was 650. Because within the next 2 years, I did want to exit. That was my goal. 2 years, I wanted to exit. So I talked to one of my auctioneer friends. He's local. They're a local company. They do commercials. That's their only marketing that they do. Their website and a commercial on the local TV. That's it. But when you think about a $750,000 purchase price, about what I was going for, landed at 715, that's a digestible purchase price for any investor to either pay cash or to just come up with 20% of equity like this investor did, use the local bank and close in 30 days, right? I didn't want to do an auction with anything that's above $1 million because I didn't think it was very achievable. So I know our market well. I know there's a lot of smaller investors who want to scale up. So I thought that the auction would be the perfect opportunity. Otherwise, I would have listed the property, and I felt that it was still in the market for 60 to 90 days, which I didn't want to happen. So from the point of signing the listing agreement with the auctioneer to listing the property was about 2 weeks. And from listing the property on the market to an actual closing was about 40 days. So it was about a 50-day turnaround from initiating the guy to actually getting a check, which is very attractive to me.
Okay.
All right.
So I think I'm going to go back to that, but I guess George, you want to read the question?
Yeah, definitely. We got a question from John. What is the total return on this deal?
That's a good question. To be honest, I didn't calculate because I was not confident until I got a check, because it's the first time I had ever done an auction. I didn't calculate what my total return was going to be. I said, hey, look, let's make sure we get a check first and then we talk about all the equity. But you'll see that I cash flowed about, I don't know, $3,500 per month for about 7 months. And so times 7 plus so I cash flowed about $24,000 over the course of about 7 to 8 months. And then just from an equity standpoint, from what I invested, we more than doubled our money, as you'll see right here. So it was about a 2.2, 2.3x on our equity investment. We did well. And I was listening. The reason that I wanted to exit, I was listening to Brad Sumrock. How many of you guys know who Brad Sumrock is? You guys know who he is? Okay. Apartment King in Dallas, Texas. Big guy, big dog, right? He's a big boy. He does amazing conferences. He does amazing content. And I was listening to him a couple months ago, actually, before I listed this. And he said, hey, if I 2x on an investment rather than 3x an investment in a shorter amount of time, wouldn't I be silly to not consider that if I can grow? And he laid it out super plain, right? Because in his mind, a lot of investors' mind, they look on their investment sheet and say, hey, look, I can make more money. There's still more money on the table. But let's say I take this money that I can get out now and buy an undervalued asset, right? Which we plan to do. Me and Bayo were just texting yesterday about a couple of assets, right? Hey, now I have equity. Let's go put down some earnest money and see if we can go grab 50 units now. So at the end of the day, that was more important to me than, hey, 3xing rather than 2.2xing. So as an investor, as a general partner, you have to sit down at the table with your team and say, hey, look, what's best for us right now? We can't project what's going to happen. We can't project that interest rates are going to come down in 2 to 3 years, right? There's a lot of people that say, hey, look, we still will be in an 8% interest rate environment 2 years from now. A lot of people are saying that. There's a lot of optimistic guys that, hey, look, it'll go down, but we don't know. What we know right now is they're undervalued assets that we can still go grab. Let's take some of those small chips off the table and let's go scale big time somewhere else. So that was the ultimate thing. I see another question.
I was going to add that point about kind of another attractive reason to enter into a liquidity event, either through a refi or a sale, because you just free up that dry powder, not only for deals that are undervalued now, but like you said, if interest rates still remain high or even go up more from here on, there's going to be great buying opportunities, and you want to have liquidity ready to go. I think that's a great additional value to have to get liquid.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Oh yeah, go for it, Josh.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say is that you guys may see some opportunities in your own local market. Excuse me. Or you may say, hey, look, the market's terrible. I don't want to go after it. It's a good deal, but I don't want to go after it. The market's not good right now. What you guys have to think about is future as well. So a lot of investors are opening up opportunistic funds. The big boys, right? They have to open up opportunistic funds. That's how they market it now. Because, hey, don't really expect a return, but it's going to be some opportunity later. Bio, we may need to do that, opportunistic fund, and go buy a bunch of doors, right? Because what's going to happen, you guys have to understand that, hey, look, the market's not always going to be down. It's a cyclical market. It just is. There's going to be some point in the future, some guy out there operated okay, and he broke even for the next 5 to 7 years. And he's gonna make a bunch of money just on appreciation because he can hang on to a deal one day, right? So don't be scared to get out there if you do have the reserves to go buy a deal like I did. This was before I ever came to Bio and say, hey, look, let's go take down an 129 door asset with $8,000 a door renovations. I went and bought 80 doors in the same market by myself. I didn't call Bio first. I went and did that for a year. And he probably didn't even know I was doing it, right? So I did all those deals, bought them, renovated them, showed that I knew what I was doing. And then, hey, look, let's go do this 129 unit and let's go get 800 rent for 2 bedrooms when they're only getting 600. I can say that confidently because I've been doing it on my own. And that's how you guys can get into commercial real estate if you want to be on the GP side, is to actually get out there and do it on your own. This is a great time to get in. It's not a great time to be a seasoned investor right now. Right? Because if you're seasoned, you like to show people you know what you're doing, and things are always green and great, right? That's what you want to do as a seasoned investor. But as a new investor, there are really no expectations. It's a great time to get in and make your mistakes now, right? Buy undervalued assets, come out well on the upside of the market, and then, hey, look, I got a couple 100,000, or I got a much more than that from these small deals that I've done that I appreciated really well later on in 2025, 2026. And then get into some syndication stuff later on as a general partner. So those are some thoughts for you guys who want to get into commercial real estate. Now is a really good time to get in if you're new.
Yeah, agreed. So I had a question, and I see John's question more on your background, which we'll get into. I wanted to touch a little bit more on the deal itself. Now, the idea of the liquidity event, it could have been a sale like you did or a cash out refinance. Could you tell us about why you may choose one way or another? Could this have been a cash out refi? You gotten maybe a certain percentage of that capital back and reinvested it somewhere else, achieving the same thing, but holding on to the equity and the deal and still continuing the cash flow?
That would have been beautiful, George, to be honest with you. If I could have refied and had a 6.5%, 7% interest rate, long-term, I still had 4 years fixed on this deal. I just exited my interest only. Right? Like I held onto this investment for 14 months. I had interest only for 12, right? I had really good debt. If I could have refinanced that within the same bank that I was using, that would have been great. But those options just weren't on the table, right? Community banks don't want to trade a 5% for a 7% interest rate when they think interest rates may go to 10. They don't even want to give you a good rate right now because they don't know where it's going to go for them, right? Because they have to borrow that money as well from their deposits and things like that. So it's really hard to do refinances with community banks. I'm looking at today, more so looking at doing assumable loans with other investors who still have that long-term debt in place. Me and Bio been looking at a deal. I'm sure George has probably seen it by now too. But looking at those type of deals, because it's hard to refinance, right? So at the end of the day, I'm at a point now, 6 and 7 years into my real estate career, where even 100 grand on one deal isn't a lot of money, right? Because you're just reinvesting that into your craft and into your business. And really 100 grand doesn't make a big dent. If you do 10% a year on 100 grand, what's that, 10 grand a year? Like, that's not a lot of money on a cash on cash return basis anyway. Put that money to work and let's try to scale it. Let's see if we can put that 100 grand somewhere else, grow it, let it grow within a bigger asset, and the velocity of capital, right? Like, you're gonna just park your money in one asset and hope that, hey, it's gonna keep appreciating. Well, you guys got to remember, I didn't pay down a lot of debt over that first year because it was interest only, right? So a sale with capturing at least some of that upside was just the best thing for me to do right now, so I can continue to scale my investment portfolio.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm also going to piggyback on that. So right now, most people have a lot of equity locked up. Every single property I have about 60 something units on my own, self-storages, 3 offices, and there's millions of dollars stuck in them all. But because the interest rate right now is below 5% in almost all of them except Southbrook and one of the self-storages, that's like 5.5. So to take out those money right now will put me at 8% interest. So, that is going to decrease my cash flow. And basically I'll be in a worse situation. So now it's just to weather the storm or sell is the only two choices. So I chose to weather the storm with my properties because I don't exactly need the money. But if there's an opportunity, a big opportunity that comes up and I can roll it in it, I can sell them. So that's usually one of the reasons why sale right now is probably better than cash out finance, especially if you lock in a better interest rate. So,
quick question for you guys. For this multifamily units, can you do, I know with houses, you could do home equity line of credit. Is that something that is possible with commercial properties?
100%. And one thing that I had to learn is, hey, look, you got other sources to get equity as well, right? There's investors who just have capital. I don't feel comfortable investing in a syndication right now. I don't feel comfortable buying my own asset. Bio said, there's people just sitting around with cash right now. There's some. You can go direct to an investor and say, hey, look, would you like to hold a position in this asset, use this as collateral, and loan me 100 grand or something like that? There's a lot of different ways to get equity out. It's a little bit more difficult to do that because you have to have connections. In order to get a line of credit from a bank, today, you have to be willing to take a 9% interest rate, a 9.5% interest rate. And that's just, it may not be the smartest thing to do. And a lot of lenders will advise you against it, right? So before I actually did this sale, I asked my lender that I have the debt with, hey, can I get a line of credit on another asset that I bought a year before this one? So I bought this 12-unit asset, another 12-unit asset in 2021, right? I've done no capital events on that at all. So I've got probably $200,000 to $300,000 equity in that other 12-unit building. And I asked the same lender who has the loan on this property, can I get a line of credit on that one, the one that I had in 2021? He said, hey, I would advise against it, right? So lenders may even advise you to not do a line of credit right now, which makes it hard to actually get those pushed across the table so you can pull out that equity. At the end of the day, with an investment of this size and me being the only owner in this deal, the only person with equity in this deal, I didn't have to check off with a bunch of people. I just made a decision that I thought was best for my portfolio as well. I also self-manage, right? So I have a property management company and I manage 207 doors now. All of those are mine. And I have to figure out, hey, what's the most efficient use of my time? I have a very important job now that if we buy a property in Fort Smith, I expect to probably manage that asset. I have to free up my time as well, right? So it just made more sense for me to sell it, to get equity out of this deal with a line of credit. It kind of prolongs things, right? It still helps me grow, but it doesn't solve the fact that I have this 12-unit building, probably 8 miles, 15 minutes from my other assets, right? It didn't solve that issue for me either. It was just a really good time And I think the person who bought this got a steal too, right? I'm talking about how great of returns that I got. I tell you guys, when I got this property appraised, it actually appraised for right around $800,000. So I think I left money on the table for him too, right? I think this guy got this property and say, man, I got to steal. I got to steal. Now, can he actually operate this? That's a good question. He probably can't operate it as well as I did. In my leases, I have $100 late fees. I have 30% rental increases if you go month to month. So the second you go month to month, your rent goes up 30% automatically on my portal. Will he have that in place? Probably not. That's very integral to his success in this deal, is actually keeping tenants, renewing them at a higher rate, not having people move out and then him having to replace somebody at a $900 rental, because that looks crazy. I was just leasing these for $700, but you have to ask $900 to do well on a new lease. But you could just do a renewal with somebody at $870 and nobody even know, and you're doing extremely well in cash flow. I don't think he can execute that. We will see. I felt that, the way I operate these deals was great, but I feel like it's a good opportunity for somebody else if they can execute as well.
So yeah,
it's a win-win for everybody.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a question about the seller and kind of understanding how they were able to acquire this deal from you. Obviously, you got fixed rate debt at a great time. You added value, but now he's coming in, or she's coming into this deal in this high interest rate environment. I'm assuming they have a high interest loan on it.
100%. He got debt on this deal. And that's a good point, George. We can talk a little bit about the seller with the psychology of the person who's going to buy today. The psychology of somebody who's going to buy today is somebody who has equity, right? I'm not going to buy something and not have equity. It doesn't make any sense, right? They may not even be as concerned about cash flow. They're concerned about debt coverage, right? Debt coverage and equity. They're a long-term thinker. They're not a short-term thinker, anybody who's buying today, right? So this person, he had never bought a multifamily property. He is from Northwest Arkansas. If you guys know anything about Arkansas, I'm sure Bio has talked to you guys about watercolors. He's from that market, right? Walmart headquarters. He came an hour and a half away to buy a 12-unit asset, and he feels that this property was worth closer to 800 like I did. He did an inspection on this property. I allowed him to do an inspection of all the people who bid on this deal. I allowed this guy to do an inspection 2 days before the auction. Actually, the day before the auction, he did a full inspection of all the doors. Like, I opened them up for him. He sent a professional inspector. He looked at every single unit, and he felt comfortable with it. And he also felt comfortable with the equity, the perceived equity, because it's not real, right? It's only real what somebody else will pay for it today. So in my belief, the property is worth $715 because that's what somebody's willing to pay. In his mind, he thinks that it's more in the future, which I can agree with too. So he did a full inspection. He actually went with a Northwest Arkansas bank, right? A bank who's an hour and a half away. So they had to have trust in him as well to do this deal, right? They're not necessarily a local bank. They don't have a branch in Fort Smith, the bank that he went with. So I'm assuming he was able to show them that he can meet debt coverage with the full rent roll. And he felt that he had equity in this deal. He actually ended up doing an appraisal maybe a week before we sold, and they only looked at one unit, the appraiser did. I believe that he thinks he got a steal. I feel like I got a great deal. I don't know how he was able to make this deal work, but I know lenders are only looking at debt coverage today. So either he put enough equity down at the closing to show them that he can cover debt, or I don't know how he would have got that deal done, to be honest with you.
Right.
So anybody else have any questions we want to get to? I definitely want to really get into this because, like I said, there may be some of you guys with assets that you're holding right now that you're thinking about, hey, I want to sell, but I'm not sure how the market will receive it. I'm just showing you a creative way to get a deal done in what I would call like a third tier market, right? Do you guys agree Fort Smith can be like a third or second tier market? I would say third tier market. So this is not a booming market by any chance, but we were still able to get a deal where we get 2.2 times our equity in a year. I feel real confident about where we are right now.
That's an awesome job, man.
Thank you.
So there are some questions. There's a question about how did you get into commercial real estate?
That's a good question. With great determination, but a lot of pushback. A lot of people, and one day I'll tell this story in depth. When I came to this market to be a real estate agent, I initially came in to do residential real estate. Excuse me. And after a very short time of being in the residential market, I realized, hey, look, I can successfully make somebody's dream come true and only make $3,500. My rent is $900 and I got 2 kids. It ain't gonna work, right? So my initial idea was that, hey, look, let's try to sell some of these apartment complexes that I already have kind of a knack towards anyway, right? Anytime I'm driving for dollars, like a lot of you guys should be doing anyway, understanding your local market, I'm driving for dollars. I always seem to gravitate towards the apartment complexes, right? Having a lot of doors, it was something that intrigued me, right? I just felt more safe. I never felt safe with one house. Even when I was selling the house, I never felt safe. I always felt like when we got to the closing table, the deal was gonna fall apart. I never felt confident that the residential deals would go through. And I also didn't have really an affinity for residential. So after about 6 to 8 months and having my license, I started selling apartment complexes. My first deal, I still remember like it was yesterday, 14 units, 4 fourplexes. When I brought it to my broker, he told me, hey, look, I don't think this is a good deal. He owned about 40 houses. I didn't mention that. My broker owned about 40 houses. And he was the biggest investor that I knew at that time. I was about 24 years old. He was the bigger investor that I knew. And he told me that was a bad deal, the 14 doors. But I called around and I had an investor that reached out to me from a different state. He's from Nashville. I'm in Arkansas. I'm like, how did you even find me, dude? But hey, I got this 14 units off market. Would you take a look? Long story short, they ended up closing that investment within 30 days. And I made about $15,000. And everything just clicked from there, right? I just knew that, hey, look, number one, I could be a commercial real estate broker, but also one day I still have that dream of owning these same assets. So that was the thing that sparked the plug for me, is that you can actually go out there and find undervalued assets that everybody don't agree on, right? Everybody's not going to agree on every investment that you go after, but they can still be good deals, right? So I started off learning this business from helping guys like Bio. Hey, I've got equity. I want to find undervalued assets in good locations. Go find them for me. And that was my job for 5 to 6 years before I ever bought another property. 2022, I went from a 2021, I owned a 4-plex. That was it. And today I own about, close to 400 doors. And I've only done one syndication. That was with Dr. Breathe Easy. So like most of those are personal investments with a couple of JV partners, right? But you have to get in the weeds and either learn this business for a long period of time. You got to put in that 10,000 hours that Kobe Bryant talked about, or you have to piggyback some folks who have put in that 10,000 hours. So I've done a mixture of both today, right? Like I put in that time to learn the business, but I've also partnered with Dr. Breathe Easy Capital, George in his own right, super successful, been a passive investor, been a general partner. Bio, he's entrepreneur. You guys know Bio, really? He's just an entrepreneur, dude. He could flip anything. Can of soda, if he had a laundromat, he'd do great. It doesn't matter, right? Just an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what he's in, right? So now starting to surround myself with guys like that with the goal of one day, hey, look, I want to own 30,000 doors. I've never told anybody that. I've told maybe 4 or 5 people that in my life, that I want to own 30,000 doors. But that number has never changed for me since I've started. So get into it. It doesn't matter how you start. It's about the information that you feed yourself, right? And then actually putting a team in place to take that next step. It doesn't have to be 0 to 30,000 doors. It could be 0 to 400 to 500 to 1,000, right? It can slowly creep up. It doesn't have to get it all. You don't have to get it all overnight. That's what we're doing right now, putting in the groundwork, building up Dr. Breathe Easy Capital, trying to educate our investors, and we're going to see how far we can go. We think we can go pretty far and serve you guys really well.
Love it. Love it. Well said, Josh. And we got about 5 more minutes on the call. So if anyone has any other questions, feel free to jump in. We're happy to hear from you, answer any questions. This has been a great case study. I'm super excited because now I'm going to go back and look at some of the properties I'm in and see if, this strategy, I've never heard it. This is brilliant. This auction. I'm going to probably call Josh later next week and ask him some more questions about that. So
show motivated. That's what it's all about, George, is showing that motivation, right? If you want to sell a deal today, you have to show motivation. You can't play cool. You can't play cool. I am the biggest broker individual real estate agent in our market, how do y'all think it looked when I put a property up for auction? People, you have no clue what people thought of. People called me and asked me if I lost my real estate license. Right? You have to show motivation. Do not play it cool. If you want to be a seller today, do not play it cool. Be aggressive, get out there, show your motivation. Don't show all your cards, but show what your motivation is so they can put a storyline together to buy your deal. And vice versa. If you're a buyer today and the seller has no motivation, you're probably buying the wrong deal right now. You're probably overpaying, or you're just probably not in the right deal. If you're a seller, show motivation. If you're a buyer, you better find that motivation, and you probably don't have the greatest deal. You don't have a lot of oblivious sellers today. That we're out of 2020 where there's 30% rent growth per year, and the seller doesn't know. They don't know, or they don't have the resources to capture that rent growth. That isn't the case today. You have very sophisticated sellers in the market, very sophisticated owners. Now, some of them aren't perfect, right? You're going to find some people who are on that Freddie bad boy list and made some mistakes, but they know their business and they made a mistake. That's completely different than them not understanding how to run a business. So if you find a seller who has no motivation, you're probably not buying the right deal. I'll be honest with you.
What are the niche in commercial real estate? Are you into just multifamily?
That's a good question. Multifamily, and that's a good question. Multifamily, I try to stay as narrow as I can because that's how you attract investors, right? Like, you don't want to hop around and do too much within real estate. If you're doing real estate, try to find your lane, which is multifamily for me. But I've done a bunch of self-storage deals. Like 2021, I helped a local family sell about 80 units of their multifamily, and the largest property they own was about 4 doors, right? Excuse me. The largest property they own was about 4 doors. So we had to sell a bunch of scattered multifamily doors and place all that equity into self-storage in Alabama, Florida, the Dakotas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas. So I've done a bunch of self-storage deals as well. I'm re-educating myself on how to actually add value to that business so we can start pushing out some more self-storage deals as well. Be on the lookout for some self-storage deals from us because I'm doing a lot of research and Bio's already in the business. So it's great for us, but multifamily is my main niche. And John, if you want to get my email,
Yes, sir.
if you want to put your email in the chat, I can send you an email. We could set up a call sometime and really sit down. And sounds like you might have an itch to get into this business, man. You look young, you look hungry, you're asking the right questions. Let's get on a call one of these days and really get into it.
Matter of fact, let's just, if you don't mind, we'll throw your email, Josh, up in the chat. If anyone wants to reach out,
for sure.
That'll be great.
Absolutely.
And we're at 5 o'clock. I want to thank everyone. I want to thank Josh for an excellent case study. I think we all learned a lot, and I hope we can use this going forward to just further our real estate endeavors. And I'll take this opportunity to just announce our next guest in 2 weeks. That's July 22nd. We're going to have Dr. Julius Oni of Excite Capital. He's going to come on and give us a talk about the journey that he's had as an orthopedic surgeon into real estate. That will be our next talk in 2 weeks. And any final send-offs from Bio or from Josh?
No, that was it. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully the next time we're talking, I'm on a webinar, we're talking about a deal that we're pushing out to our investors, and hopefully you guys would love to come on board with us. You know, we really put in a lot of time and a lot of effort into our education, into our craft, and into this platform. If you guys want to put it away for them to get onto our email list as well, Bio, because you guys put out some really good content throughout the weeks if you're not already on our email list.
Yeah, I think they get on our email list by just applying for the webinar.
Yeah, perfect.
But thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we have something big. And Josh is very meticulous, very detail-oriented. I'm a big picture guy, and George is the king of operations. He's all about putting everything into operations so that you can do it repeatedly. And Josh is very detail-oriented. So with the combination, it's such a great team that we have. So thank you very much, Josh and George.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you as well.
For coming,
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.